Does anybody else find it funny that when you're on Zoom, you feel like you have to name everything you're going to do? Like, I'm going to share my screen now. Like, you don't do that in like real life. I think it's so funny. And I catch myself doing it all the time. So let me go back to the first slide. That would probably be helpful. So if you'll do us a favor, and if you'll change your name, when you click on like your picture, you'll see 3 little dots, and just put either ELA or math in front of your name, so that when we go into the breakout rooms to try out the protocol, we're going to split into, like, if you have ELA work, we're going to go into one room, and then Lisa will take the folks that have math work to look at. So if you'll just take a minute to put that in front of your name, that will help us do the breakout rooms. All right.
Okay, so our learning target today, I can analyze and sort student data using the thin slicing protocol. And in a minute, Jennifer is going to go through and teach us about that. But before we get started, we're going to talk about the why behind thin slicing and why it's important and why we're talking about this today. So this quote from Diane Sweeney, I think, sums it up, and we'll talk a little bit more about it. But she says, looking at student work, it is only through the analysis of student work that we can truly know what students did or did not learn from a given lesson. With this up-close view, we can direct instruction to target students' specific needs. So like Natalie said, now that we are living in the world of standards-based and the feedback-driven progress report, really knowing where our kids are and having that evidence to support that is more important than ever. And so really analyzing and looking at the student work through the lens of the expectations documents for all the subjects, ELA, math, science, social studies, and really figuring out where our students are is so important. And so this thin slicing protocol is just an easy, quick way to be able to do that. And there are lots of different levels that you can use this on, and we'll talk more about that as we get going. But as we look at our next slide, the thin slicing gives us a place where we can collect and sort, and I think this is key, intervene early. It's live data, data that our students have it's something that they have just done. And so we're looking at it, we're sorting it, and then we're trying to find places where we can teach in and support them. So Jennifer is going to talk about this protocol and how we can use the data to quickly plan and teach responsibly.
Yes. So I love this thin slicing protocol because it's really quick, but it also helps you as a teacher know what the student has done, what they're doing, and then how then you can provide them feedback that's targeted and intentional. So we know that whenever we want to provide feedback for students, whenever we want to pull them into a small group, we always want to make sure that it's really intentional and targeted. And so when we go through this thin slicing protocol, I hope you can see how this will support not only when you're providing information for your feedback-driven progress report, but also how it can affect your small groups or your conferring to make them really targeted and intentional for what the student needs. So when you think about, well, what data can I use for thin slicing? And there's really nothing you can't use. So for math, Lisa shared with me that like you have district assessments, you can use exit slips. You can also, she was mentioning using quizzes that maybe you create. That would be another option to use, which would be some data. For reading, when we think about reading, we have comprehension checkpoints, we have exit slips, pre-assessment. I could have added bend assessments. Writing, we have pre-writing. We also have, checkpoints for writing. And then if you're thinking about a content area, so if you're thinking about science or social studies, maybe you're a related arts teacher, or maybe you're, teach another subject area, you can use exit slips or pre-assessment, those types of data to sort. Oh, I don't know what happened. Uh-oh. Please hold, let me see what happened here. That's strange. All right, let me try it again. All right, has anyone ever had this happen to them?
No. Of course, today.
I know, right? And it's very interesting because I can see it here.
We can, yeah.
So why isn't it? Okay. I hate to do this, y'all, but I'm just going to go through this way instead of in presentation mode. Is that okay with everybody?
Yeah, we can see it.
That's fine. We can see it.
But you know what? It's not showing up on here. All right. Please hold, everybody. If you want to turn off your microphone and talk for a moment while I get it back up.
Hi, I'm Rebecca Shea. I just have my camera off. This is my 4th Zoom meeting, and I'm staring at myself for many hours now, and
That's all right.
it's not good.
We're glad you're here.
Thank you. Glad to be here. We're doing it.
All right, let me see now. All right, I think I got it now. So thank you for being patient. Let me try sharing my screen again.
There we go.
All right, there we go.
Woohoo.
Hopefully it will stay and it will reload. There we go. Yay. Okay. So thank you all for being patient. I apologize. So when you have your data, so imagine you have your stack of data, and we're going to go through this protocol all together. So right now it's just kind of like an overview, and then we'll actually go through each step. But the first step is a quick sort. And protocols always have time frames. So typically, allow yourself like 3 minutes. And this is where you just do a quick sort. So if you're looking at a piece of data, for example, let's say you're looking at an ELA pre-assessment, perhaps you're just looking at one question from that pre-assessment. Maybe it's something on main idea. And you're just gonna sort quickly students that you think met, partially met, or not yet met. So you have not yet scored this data yet. So it's not like you're bringing data that you've already looked at and you've already scored. It's like fresh data that you have not looked at. And you're gonna sort it into 3 different piles: met, partially met, not yet met. And then after you do that, you look through the middle pile. So your middle pile is like the partially met pile. And you think to yourself, do I need to resort any of these students? Do I really need to think maybe the student really goes more to the met? Or could it be that I put them in partially met and really they're not yet met? So again, you have like about 3 minutes to do that, where you're resorting anything from that middle pile, from that partially met pile. Then you select a piece that is representative of each pile. So you look through the met pile and you think to yourself, like, this piece is really representative of what I expect a met student's work to look like. And then you look through the partially met pile and you think to yourself, this is an example of what I would expect a partially met student's work to look like. And then you do the same with not yet met. And again, it's pretty quick, it's 3 minutes. So that's why it's typically important, especially like when looking at something for ELA, whether it be a piece of writing or some kind of reading assessment, that you're maybe only looking at one question so that you're not trying to read the whole writing piece or read every answer for everything.
Same for math, one question.
So then step 4 is a little bit longer. It's 7 minutes long. And that's when you're really studying representative samples. And you look at the student work and you think, how does this student's work compare to a benchmark piece? So how does it compare to an exemplar? And it could be that you're using another student's that is in your MET pile. Maybe you're using that as your exemplar. Or for ELA, we can use the Writing Pathways book or the Reading Pathways book to give us some exemplars. So in this one, it's really looking at each student and how does their work compare to the exemplar. So you probably want to think in an asset base. So what is this child really doing well? And maybe starting to think about what could some next steps be, which then leads us into the last part of the protocol, which is planning the next steps. And as you can see, you have the most time for planning next steps. That's 12 minutes. And this is when you're looking through student work and really thinking, again, asset-based. What are their overall strengths? What did the student really do well? What are some challenges the student had? And this is where it's really beautiful because now you can start looking for trends and thinking about predictable small groups. So when I looked at the overall challenges, this group of 4 students all have the same challenges. So now I can pull them into a small group and now I can create an action plan for them. So now I know that I need to work with this group on naming the main idea. And I'm going to create an action plan of how I'm going to do that. On day 1, we'll do this. And the next time I meet with them, maybe I'll do this. So you're creating a really targeted and intentional small group. So throughout this protocol, I hope you can see how not only it can help you in really being able to name where students fall for feedback-driven progress reporting, like do they fall in met, or do they fall in partially met, or are they in the not yet met, but also then how you can start thinking about your small groups and really planning that really targeted, intentional small group and or conference if that's necessary. So now we're going to pull you into breakout rooms. And we're going to look at your data, and we're going to actually run through this protocol with you with your student work. So if you just were able to join us and you do not have any student work, if you just want to take a minute and grab some student work that you can sort. And I'm going to stop recording it now since